Welcome. We have a beginning place here. We're at the hour when we start, and we're very grateful for those of you that are here. And frequently, people do come, a little late. We will get started now. This is recorded, and I just want to thank you all and welcome everyone to this webinar. My name is Susan Musicant, and I will introduce our speaker. This is Eli Cruz Rodriguez. Did I get that right, Eli?
Yeah,
Good. And if you would take a minute, Eli, to tell us about your background. We know you're going to talk to us about healthy eating, and especially as it relates to aging and caregiving. Thank you so much, and go ahead and let's hear who you are and why you're here today.
thank you. I do have a slide. I'm not sure if you want me to just share the screen already with everybody.
I think you may as well. Yeah.
Okay. Let me just do that. All right. So yeah, hi everybody. Like I said, my name is Eli Cruz Rodriguez. Today the presentation will be about healthy eating and essentials for a healthy lifestyle. And we're going to put an emphasis on our elderly population. And a little bit about me is that I have a bachelor's degree in nutrition science from UC Davis. I also hold a master's degree in lifespan nutrition dietetics from USC. I'm also a certified health coach. I'm a certified diabetes peer counselor, and I'm also a registered drug and alcohol counselor. So I have a pretty extensive background, and I love to incorporate all of that into my nutrition. So definitely, if you have questions or anything to say, any comments, any feedback, you can go ahead and let me know. Um, and yeah, I don't know if you should I just continue and do the presentation, Susan?
Absolutely. And if people can use the chat to put their questions in, then we can sort them and make sure we have time to discuss them. But we'll have a question and answer time at the end also. So
Thank
please
you.
do go ahead.
All right. So we have several objectives for today. Some of those objectives are for you to be able to understand the important and basic concepts of nutrition, be able to understand why creating healthy dietary habits are important for overall health, be able to understand the different types of nutrition-related chronic illnesses, also be able to understand the importance of staying physically active, and for you to learn to incorporate daily habit changes to improve your well-being. So, as many of you know, chronic disease is linked to lifestyle choices, right, and age. Some of the chronic diseases that we typically see are overweight and obesity, malnutrition, hypertension, which we know it's high blood pressure. We also see diabetes and prediabetes. We see cardiovascular disease, osteoporosis, which is loss of bone strength, sarcopenia, which is loss of muscle mass and strength. And a lot of these issues can be prevented with proper care and also proper nutrition. And before we start, talking about nutrition and go into more depth, we have to be able to understand that there are different macronutrients and micronutrients our body needs. I'm sure some of you have heard of them before, but just to put them into context, the macronutrients our body needs are three of them. We have carbohydrates, which are the main source of energy for our body. We have protein, which are essential for growth and repair. We also have fat, which is essential for energy and cell function. Those are three macronutrients our body needs. And then the micronutrients are vitamins and minerals. And they support a variety of body functions, and they also help us prevent deficiencies. So for carbohydrates, I think this is a really important one, especially for people who are dealing with diabetes or prediabetes. And also it relates a lot to people who are overweight or obese. So carbohydrates basically provide us with glucose, which is sugar. And then in our body, once that's absorbed, it's converted into energy. We do have two different types of carbohydrates. We have complex carbohydrates, which provide us with longer lasting energy and keep our bodies full and satisfied for longer periods of time. And then we have simple carbohydrates, which provide us with a quick energy, but they do not keep us full and satisfied. And usually, simple carbohydrates refer to cookies, crackers, and like sugary beverages, whereas complex carbohydrates refer to more of whole grains, quinoa, pasta, or like beans. So there is a recommended dietary allowance, which means the recommended value for adults, for regular adults, for normal adults, and the recommended dietary allowance for adults is an intake of 45 to 65% of the calories from our diet to come from carbohydrates, or at least 130 grams for females and males. And it usually varies depending on like people's age, the gender, and also like the physical activity that people are doing. Some healthy sources of carbohydrates are whole grains, oats, pasta, brown rice. We also have quinoa, beans, and of course, vegetables and fruits. Our next macronutrient is protein. Protein is essential for muscle growth and repair. It's also essential for immune system support, hormone production, and energy production. When digested, proteins are converted into amino acids. So they're made into smaller molecules in our body in order to be processed. We have essential amino acids, and we also have non essential amino acids. Essential means that the body is not able to make them. Therefore, we have to eat them from our diet. And non essential means that the body can make them, but we don't really need to get them from our diets. But we could, but we don't really need them since our body makes them already. The recommended dietary allowance for proteins is 10 to 35%. So 10 to 35% of our daily amount of calories should come from protein sources, or at least 46 grams for females or 56 grams for males. One of the main issues that the elderly population does deal with recently is sarcopenia, which is the loss of like muscle mass and strength. So a lot of studies are recommending for people to actually start eating a little bit more protein, and they recommend for our elderly population to eat between 1.2 to 2.0 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. Some of the healthy sources of protein that we can eat is poultry, so fish, also lean beef, lentils, beans, and a lot of different dairy products that contain protein. The last macronutrient is fat, right? And fat is very important because it's essential for energy and cell function. It also helps us with insulation and protection of our organs. It helps us with hormone production, brain function, and absorption of essential vitamins. We do have two different types of fat that we can get from our diet. We have unsaturated fats, which are considered the healthy fats, and they're usually liquid at room temperature, and they're found in many plants and also oily fish. And in those unsaturated fats, we can also find omega-3s and omega-6s, which is probably a supplement that many of you know, the omega-3s, and they come from fish, and they help with brain function and to keep our fat intake at a balanced level. The other one is saturated fats, and saturated fats usually come from animal sources, and they're known to be solid at room temperature. Usually, saturated fats are the ones that we want to limit because of they're linked to different like health conditions. So usually, they recommend for us to have less than 10% intake of saturated fats in our diet. So yeah, the recommended dietary allowance for fat for an adult is 20 to 35% of their daily amount of calories. And like I was saying, 10% of the calories have to come from saturated fat. So it's a good idea to make sure to be mindful of the amount of fat that we're eating. Some good healthy sources of fat are avocados, olive oil. We also have salmon, we have walnuts, and flax seeds. Lastly, we have two types of micronutrients. We have the vitamins and minerals. They're very important because they support a variety of functions such as vision, they support reproduction, bone health, skin health, immune system. They help us with flushing toxins. They also help us with blood clotting and nerve function, nerve system function. Yeah. The recommended dietary allowance, it really depends on the age, your gender, and the type of vitamin and mineral that you need. Um, and of course, sources of it can be, variety of fruits, vegetables, animal-based food, and supplements. I would recommend for you to check out the Dietary Guidelines of Americans if you want to see like a more specific number on like the type or the amount of vitamins or minerals that you need. Usually they do range, and there's a lot of them. So I can't really talk about all of them within like just one presentation. But if you definitely need more guidance or support, you can ask later, and I can provide that for you. So it's important to talk about the dietary guidelines for Americans. These are the guidelines that we use as healthcare professionals or nutrition professionals to guide our clients, and they're used in school settings, they're used in hospital settings to also set up food portions and the type of food that they serve. And the main recommendations that they give us is, that you have to reduce calories by decreasing the intake of solid fats, refined grains, and added sugars. They also emphasize the importance of dietary patterns, not just food alone. They also encourage the intake of whole foods that are minimally processed. They also encourage a balance, to balance your calories with physical activity. Uh, they definitely want us to eat more fruits, more vegetables, more whole grains, and make sure that you're having less sodium in your food, which is salt, less saturated fats, and less cholesterol in your diet. So four components that you can keep in mind, to start working on balancing your diet are definitely including healthy fats in your meals, including lean proteins, and different sources. It could include poultry, fish, legumes, and nuts. Making sure that you're also adding whole grains because they provide sustained energy and essential nutrients. Making sure that you're also adding fruits and vegetables. Lately, we're having a problem in the American population that we're not eating the proper amount of fruits and vegetables, which should be between 2 to 3 cups a day. And this is something that, it's worrisome because fruits and vegetables should be part of our meals on a daily basis, but we tend to forget or we tend to not choose them. And this leads to deficiencies. It leads to obesity and, a lot of different like other health concerns. And some common nutritional mistakes that a lot of people make that kind of like messes up, their dietary pattern is like the overconsumption of processed foods. And this could be hamburgers, it could be pizza, it could be things like hot dogs, chips, because they're usually high in sugars, they're high in saturated fats, and also they have non-nutritional food additives that provide minimal nutrition to your body or like no nutrition at all. So definitely, a lot of people make this mistake to overconsume these processed foods, which can lead to obesity. Also, skipping meals is another mistake that we see in the population, especially with different dietary trends that we see online. Um, this can usually lead to overeating later and nutrient deficiency. So definitely make sure that you're not skipping meals because, you might have heard online or from somewhere that it's healthy for you. It definitely isn't. And it's important that you're having at least 3 meals a day. Uh, Also, definitely make sure that you stay hydrated. A lot of people tend to forget to just drink water, which is one of the most basic things that we can do. But, due to us being too busy, too occupied, we forget to drink enough water for the day. And that's when we start seeing a lot of, headaches, and we start feeling nauseous, and we might start feeling weak because we don't have, uh, we're dehydrated. So definitely make sure you don't make these 3 common mistakes. So how do you create a healthy meal pattern? There's 3 main things that you should focus on that you can get you started, making sure that you incorporate a variety of food, include different food groups to basically cover all the nutrient needs. So this could be carbohydrates, it could be the fat, it could be the protein, making sure that you're adding different types of food, and don't stick to just the same ones every day, because the variety will make your diet, your healthy, diet pattern more sustainable over a long term. Making sure that you also know portion control. A lot of us are used to eating big meals, big portions, and usually that leads to a lot of weight gain. So make sure that you balance the amount of food to avoid overeating, and make sure that you're mindful of how hungry and how full you're feeling when you're also, sitting down at the table to eat. Um, Make sure you pay attention to those hunger cues because your body does tell you when it's full, but we tend to ignore those cues and we tend to just continue eating until the point that we're past fullness. Another one is meal timing, making sure that you have a regular, eating time. A lot of us tend to be too busy and we might eat breakfast at 12, then we have lunch like around 3 or 4, and then we end up eating dinner like around 9 p.m. or so. And this creates an unhealthy eating pattern and it becomes too erratic. So making sure that you eat regular meals, snacks to maintain energy levels through the day, making sure that you're not eating too late at night because that might keep you up a little later than usual because your body needs time to digest. And you can't go to sleep when with a full stomach because it might cause acid reflux, and you really want to avoid that. And I can't really talk about nutrition without talking about physical activity. I think it's one of the important things that they go hand in hand with each other, because it does improve health, overall health, when you combine both of them. So combining, a good, healthy eating pattern with physical activity, maybe not on a daily basis, but at least 2 to 3 days out of the week. And physical activity can range from just walking, jogging. You could do swimming. You can do many different things that could be considered physical activity. Not just the gym or like lifting weights. There's a lot of different things that can help you improve your overall health. Just doing 10 to 15 minutes a day of a walk could definitely help you improve your health. Some recommendations that we see for physical activity for older adults between the ages 18 to 64 is that all adults should avoid inactivity, right? Everybody should be doing something. Um, Moderate intensity exercises, 150 minutes a week at least. Making sure that you do aerobic activity at least 300 minutes a week. So, like I said, running as a aerobic activity, anything that gets your heart pumping a little bit faster, it's recommended for you to do at least 300 minutes a week. It's the most, right? But for me, anything really helps. Making sure that you're also doing muscle strengthening at least 2 or more days a week. You don't have to lift heavy weights, but if you're lifting 5, 10 pounds, that is super helpful, and it's going to keep your muscles and your body, active. And making sure that you increase the intensity with time. You can also combine intensity with moderate intensity exercises, so you can vary the exercises, and making sure that you're also doing movement that's enjoyable to you is another key factor to make physical activity sustainable. A lot of people, when they get older or even young people, they tend to get a personal trainer and they start doing, these heavy exercises, which feel forced and they feel like military exercises. So making sure that you're enjoying the exercise that you're doing. So you can do dancing, you can do yoga, you can do tai chi. There's so many different ones that you can try that doesn't necessarily have to be lifting heavy weights. And the last one is if you can do it, that's great. The more, the better. So definitely keep this in mind. For the so for older adults, ages 64 and up, it's the same recommendations. Making sure that you're following the adult guidelines if you're able to. Making sure that you remember that exercise does improve balance and it improves overall health. Chronic conditions may impact the ability to exercise, so definitely understand that sometimes you might not be able to complete an exercise due to your chronic disease, and also just the ability that you have, your strength. There's so many things that come into account, so definitely make sure that you're doing movements that your body is able to keep up with, right? And just remember that doing something is better than doing nothing, right? So, in conclusion, just remember a few things. Remember that proper nutrition and physical activity is crucial for a healthy, active life. Make sure that you're making informed choices and strive for a balanced diet. Making sure that you start implementing small changes today to improve your eating habits and your overall health. And some tips that you can start working on to maintain a healthy eating habits. making sure that you're planning ahead. So make sure that, you create a food list. If you're going grocery shopping, make sure that you create a food list. You can create a meal plan for yourself, maybe 1 or 2 days ahead. That way you can be prepared. Make sure that you're reading the food label, right? I know that reading food labels is kind of difficult right now. You have so many different components of it. You have the ingredients. You also have like the different micronutrients and macronutrients that come into it. So make sure that you're reading that correctly. And if you do need help, make sure that you ask the proper person, for some guidance on how to read it. Make sure that you're choosing nutrient dense food. So make sure that you're choosing products that have high protein, low carbohydrates and low fats, and definitely low sodium and low added sugars. That's something that we want to stay away from, the added sugars. Make sure that you stay hydrated and make sure that you stay active. And these are just some resources that you can check out later. You have Choose My Play for older adults. This gives you a view of like how many calories you need. Also gives you really great recipes and other resources that you can check out. You have the American Heart Association Healthy Living for Seniors. And this also gives you like exercises that you can do. You have Go for Life from the National Institute of Aging. Also gives you more recommendations on how to be healthy. And the Dietary Guidance for Americans, which give you a really good insight at the different vitamins, the different minerals, the different needs, nutritional needs that we need for our different like age groups. And it ranges between like 18 all the way to 64. So definitely take a look at this when you have time. I think this will really be helpful. And yeah, that was pretty much everything that I have prepared. I know that probably a few questions came up, or maybe you want to talk about different things that I can answer. So this is my information right here. You can scan this QR code and you can find my email, and you can also find my social media if you're interested, in asking more questions, more in-depth questions. But we can definitely take the rest of the time so I can answer questions that people might have.
Um, Thank you, Eli. Incredible amount of important information. Um, and I think that we all wish that it was somehow easier to do the right thing all the time. And to have, guidance is really wonderful. I want to tell people that we will be sending out this information in our next newsletter. So it will be accessible, the slideshow, the information, and the recording. So you can look at that again and hear this way to reach Eli. Eli, you've mentioned to us that you've done a lot of work in the community and continue to, trying to promote and educate good eating for folks in our community. And I really have to thank you for that. You mentioned that you do some kind of a newsletter for the Mercy Brown Bag folks. Perhaps you can just tell us a little bit about some of these resources for folks where they can get food that's really good for them. And I'm thinking perhaps your newsletter, you have some ideas for simple recipes even. I mean, a can of beans is great. You get fiber and you get protein, but not many people are really going for a can of beans for lunch. They want it to be a little bit more like a hamburger, a little more. Something. So how would you help folks get started? You
Yeah,
know,
thank you for that question. Yeah. So definitely, like I think one of the main issues that we have at hand is definitely that our elderly population is dealing with a lot of food insecurity. And, we're not having enough access to proper foods. We don't have enough access to affordable foods that we can, eat, right? And one of the programs that I volunteer for is called Mercy Brown Bag, as you mentioned. And their goal is to provide grocery bags. A grocery bag, um, I think it's 2 grocery bags a month per individual, and you have to be 65. I think you have to be 60 and older to be able to qualify for their services. So what they do is, they provide you with a grocery bag, and the grocery bag has fruits, it has vegetables, it has some canned products. It also has a type of protein, either it could be meat, or it could be pork, it could be turkey. And they also can give out milk and eggs, right? So this is super helpful, especially for people who are having a difficult time accessing food, or just being able to walk to a grocery store and purchase that. Because what they do is they deliver the food straight to you, and if you can actually drive to them, they have a small food pantry where they provide food for people as well. And this is a great resource, for people to have, especially, our older population. And it's one thing that you can look it up online. You can also access this through their website or like their Instagram page. And yeah, I provide a weekly, not weekly, but a monthly newsletter for them, and it focuses on the vegetable of the month. This month is going to be squash, and it provides the folks that get the grocery bag. Uh, it gives them a recipe for them to try out at home. It also tells them about the vegetable or the fruit, like the different nutrient components of it, how it can benefit their health, and yeah, like how to cook it basically. And so that's been like super helpful, because one of the main things that I want to do is be able to provide, folks with nutrition education, because I know that nutrition is something that could be used for preventative care, and not a lot of us have access to it unless we have a medical diagnosis. So definitely being able to provide that service for folks is super. It's something that I really love doing. And I've been volunteering at different other organizations that are dealing with food insecurity. Um, and yeah, like she was saying, like Susan was saying, a lot of people think that having a can of beans, or like, maybe choosing canned products instead of like fresh products is unhealthy. But in reality, sometimes that might be our only option. And they do provide a lot of nutrients. So like if you have access to can of beans, can of corns, even frozen products provide a really good amount of nutrients. So, the food that you're buying doesn't necessarily have to be fresh all the time. It doesn't have to be straight from the farmer's market. You just have to be able to, do the best you can with what you have. And if you have access to frozen foods, canned products, definitely use them, because, they're super easy to make, super easy to use, and they're cheap also. So definitely think about your budget. And, if you need more assistance with food, there's also CalFresh. We have the Alameda Food Bank, and we have many different food pantries that provide support for their community. And yeah, this is definitely another, website that we can check out together too, and like, or you can have access to, if you look it up, the Alameda Food Bank. They have a phone number that you can contact if you need food assistance. So definitely make sure that you are accessing these resources.
Thank you. Barbara, please go ahead.
Okay. Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to say, Mr. Eli, I really enjoyed your presentation. It was very thorough. And I have taken, I'm way past 65, but I've taken advantage of the Mercy Brown Bag at a senior center, and it's really great, very helpful. And just to add to that, a lot of churches, including mine, uh, they're connected with the Alameda County Food Bank, and once a month we have fresh food, fresh vegetables and fruits for people. And so, thank you. My question is around fasting. Occasionally, I hear people say they're going to fast, for maybe different occasions. So, what's your take on fasting? You did mention, that the routine with 3 meals, is the best
Yeah.
way to go. So, what do you think?
Yeah, thank you, Barbara, and thank you for the question. Yeah, I mean, it depends on what the reason is, right? So, if your reason is religious, then you have to just practice accordingly. But if your reason is, for weight loss, or because you heard it online, because you want to try a new diet, I would say no, don't do it because your body does need the food. What happens is when your body goes on skipping meals, right? If you want to skip or fast for a whole day, your body goes into a stress response and it starts releasing inflammatory markers. So your body doesn't want to with that, right? You don't want to deal with inflammation. So definitely skipping meals is going to have your body on flight or fight response, and it's going to make your body think that you're in starvation mode. So your body is gonna be out of order. It's gonna be out of whack, right? So you definitely don't want to do that because you do need the carbohydrates, you do need the protein, and you do need like things like fiber, and you need that for proper function, right? So, like I said, like glucose, sugar is the body's main source of energy, and when your body doesn't have the carbohydrates that it needs, it goes into a different response, and you start adapting into a fight or fight mode response, and it's really not healthy for you because what it does is it's going to lead you into chronic inflammation, and chronic
I
inflammation
see.
is one of
Okay.
the yeah, chronic inflammation is one of the leading factors of chronic disease. So definitely, like if you're fasting for religious reasons, make sure that you're doing it with the proper guidance. But if you're fasting because of, of a diet that you want to try, I would recommend against it. And instead, what you can do is, you may try to eat smaller portions of food throughout the day. If your goal is weight loss, you can do that. You can decrease the amount of food that you're eating daily. And eventually, the less that you eat, uh, in the long run, then you're going to lose weight. But dieting, fasting is definitely not the way to go because it's not sustainable for your body.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Question from Laura. Go ahead, Laura. We'd love to hear your question.
Susan, hi everyone. Eli, thank you for the presentation. I had a question on the exercise. I hadn't seen that 300 minutes of exertion, like harder exercise than I guess the 150 minutes. So is it 150 minutes and 300 minutes?
It's so the 150 minutes was for a different type of exercise. So let me just go back. Okay, here we go. Yeah, so moderate intensity exercises. So it could be weightlifting. So they recommend at least 150 minutes. And aerobic activity, it's a completely different type of exercise, right? So like running, you can do swimming, or you can even do like, jogging or like speed walking. So aerobic exercises are things that get your heart pumping at a faster rate. So they recommend for people to do at least 300 minutes, right? Or the most, which is considered, for people that are like between 18 and 64. It's just a recommendation. You don't have to do 300 minutes a week, but you can aim to at least 150, 100 minutes. So it's whatever you can do. You don't
Sure.
necessarily have to stick to, the guidelines. This is
Yeah.
just for like reference, basically, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
So at least an hour a day or more of some type of exercise, moderate or aerobic. Aerobic more so than moderate.
Yeah, and I recommend people to start small, right? Start low. If you can do 30 minutes a day, if you can do 15 minutes a day, that's great, right? Uh, and you can split the 300 minutes through the week. You can do 4 days, 3 days. So making sure that you're at least getting some type of physical activity is the most important thing, because physical activity does really improve your health. And we've seen that, for people, especially for people who are overweight and dealing with obesity or like diabetes, losing 10 pounds to 15 pounds on its own, it gives them like a huge benefit in their health. So definitely make sure that you start incorporating all these different nutritional recommendations and physical activity recommendations into your your daily life, because, the small changes can lead to big, big impact.
Benefits, yeah. And I know Susan helps with that, with her get the Zoom on. That's yeah, that's
Yeah, yeah,
aerobic exercise.
yeah, and definitely, incorporate things that you love doing, right? Like that you enjoy doing. Like your body enjoys doing certain movements, so make sure that you're not doing movements that you feel uncomfortable with, that your body's not agreeing with. Um, and we see a lot of personal trainers online telling people do this for six packs or do this to get your muscles bigger. But in reality, we have to be able to understand our body and the things that we enjoy doing. So, there's so many different exercises. If you like dancing, if you like doing Zumba, stretching,
Mhm.
yoga, all of that, that can count as physical activity.
Yeah, I learned the hard way 7 years ago. I did 9 months of high intensity workout, and my body got so inflamed. I never felt good. It was too much.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was
I
it was intense. Even my then 20-plus-year-old daughter couldn't even stay up with it.
yeah,
She's
yeah.
like, I never want to do that again. And I did
And
it for
like
9 months.
and sometimes we feel peer pressure, to do things like that because we might want to lose weight, or we want to be part of a certain group. But like I said,
Yeah,
once we get older, our body changes, so we definitely have
yeah.
to adapt to those changes. So doing, super intense exercises is great, but at the same time, just remember that your muscles are not the same. Your your whole body is just completely different.
I got so inflamed. Yeah. And breathing got harder because of the inflammation. And the muscles got strong, but I did not lose any weight, because the muscles is mostly muscle weight.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's quite a story. And it brings up the point that there is too much of a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to go from maybe being more or less sedentary to doing a really intense physical workout. I mean, when you stop to think about it, you think, hey, wait, that doesn't quite feel right, right? There
Oh,
is
yeah.
some common sense, I think, perhaps. What would you say to that, Laura? That perhaps we do need to consult our common sense in all of this.
Yes, you're right, Susan. Except I was in fairly better shape, a lot better shape than I am now, but it was still too much. I wasn't sedentary, but yes, I needed to listen to my body instead of listening to the coach or the group.
Yeah.
That's what so I wanted to really stress in this really valuable comment of yours, because it isn't often that somebody will say I did too much and that wasn't a good thing, because that yes, there can be too much of a good thing,
Yeah.
and to listen to your body. How do you do that? All of these recommendations are meant to speak to that wisdom in yourself that
Yes.
knows that, yeah, okay, that sugar drink every day that I'm so used to, that I think of as a reward, maybe it is really in the long run not so good. How do I, one step at a time, all of it's just a lot to change, all this advice. Yes, Cleo, please. Cleo, you're muted, my dear.
Thank Eli, thank you for your presentation. And she brought up a good point when she said she was overexerted her body, whatever. But I took swimming lessons this spring at Chabot, learning how to swim at the age of 82. And I would have breakfast at least an hour before I would go to the pool, then work out for, I'd say, an hour and a half learning to swim. And it was just amazing that I'm still learning. I'm not a Olympics yet, but I want to get there. But it's just amazing how you you do pay attention to your body. And then I knew when I would leave I would even take water. So if I came up, and close to the side, I drink some water while I was still, learning. And it really helped me. So I know
Yeah.
that sometimes we do have to pay attention to our bodies and just not over.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for that, Cleo. And I just wanted to say, like one important word that we all should be familiar with is definitely moderation. We can do moderation with food, we can do moderation with exercise. And when we do moderation with food, it comes like we were talking about, like sugary drinks, right? Or I'm pretty sure a lot of us like sweets, we like chocolates, we like cookies. And, like they're not bad. It's not bad to eat a cookie, but definitely, don't eat 5 cookies in one sitting, right? So we can incorporate the stuff that we eat or the stuff that we love, we can incorporate that to our daily meals as well. Just as long as, we're prioritizing the nutrient dense food, and then we can have a little time or a little space for cookies or croissants or whatever that we enjoy. And when it comes to exercise, yeah, exercise is super important. And I'm so happy that you're taking the swimming classes because it's super important. Like you say you're 86 and you're taking swimming classes, and you do understand the importance of physical activity, and that's why you're doing it. And then you're also enjoying it, right? You're saying that you want to be an Olympic swimmer. That's awesome. That's a great goal to have, and definitely keep it up, right? Like for me, some of the exercises that I do, they consist of boxing. I do soccer. I do just regular conditioning and training classes, and the variety definitely helps me stay, like, in good shape, and it helps me stay healthy. And I don't really pay attention to like the amount of food that I eat because I understand my body to the point where like I just eat enough, right? So definitely keep in mind the moderation word. Make sure that that stays in your head because it's super important and it cannot be applied to everything.
Karen, yeah, go ahead, please share.
Yeah, I have a comment and a question, Eli. Um, I find out other people very much like me, go to the grocery store and shop, and I get fresh vegetables, and I might as well just toss them in the garbage when I get home, because they often will sit in my refrigerator to the point of gelatinousness. And so I'm always a proponent of fresh vegetables, but I think sometimes, and maybe it's companion with being older, we don't always cook what we meant to when we do it. So my question for you was, I'm of the understanding that frozen vegetables are every bit as healthy and nutritious because they're picked at the point of ripeness. And they don't spoil if you keep them in the freezer. Am I on track with that?
Yeah, Karen, definitely. That's a great question, and it's the same concept as the canned products, right? So I buy a lot of frozen vegetables and a lot of frozen fruits because I like my smoothies, and I definitely don't want my vegetables to go bad, a few days after I buy them because, like you said, we might not cook the meal that we want to that same day. We might not use the vegetable within the amount of time that we're supposed to. And buying canned vegetables and also frozen vegetables is another great option because they're super cheap compared to the actual vegetable. And you can freeze them and you can hold them for longer, so they can last you for such a long time. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad or that they have some type of chemical in them that's added, for them to last that long. And it's honestly just, food science at work, right? So food scientists have developed all these different types of resources for food to be preserved for longer. So just because something is preserved for longer, it doesn't necessarily make it bad. It doesn't make it unhealthy, but it's a great way for you to buy cheap products and keep them for longer, and they're still going to provide you with the same amount of nutrients.
Yeah.
and they're also going to
was my
help.
question.
Yeah, they're also going to help you save some money. So
Well,
definitely,
you know, when I go to the grocery store, I don't know how fresh that lettuce is. I don't know how many trucks it got carried in and how long it sat back in the produce section before it was put out on the floor. I can't know that. And so I look at them as being very healthy, but it's a lot up to me if I use them right away or not. And a lot of times I don't. So thank you for that. You know, I've always felt that frozen is inferior, that canned is inferior. And yet I keep hearing that they're a really important alternative to the farmer's market or growing your own.
yeah. And I would say one important thing to keep in mind when you do buy canned products is make sure that you are reading the food label, because a lot of canned products do have a lot of salt in
They
them.
may have a lot of salt in them or
Yeah.
other additives for
Yeah.
preservation. Yeah.
Yeah. So, especially if you're somebody who has high blood pressure, definitely try to go for the low sodium products, right?
Exactly.
Um,
Well, I think
yeah,
that's where frozen food is a better alternative.
yeah,
Often they don't have salt added. They're just the product itself.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You
Thanks.
know, I was going to add to that, back when people lived on farms and grew their own food, people canned.
They did.
Mhm.
People did that
They
because,
did.
you didn't have fresh food all year round because it didn't.
Absolutely not. That's a good.
Yeah. And since you brought that up, also, there is a lot of different organizations doing like gardens, right? They have gardens, community gardens,
That's right.
and like a lot of people volunteer, and a lot of people get food from those food gardens because that's what they're there for, to provide another access to food for the community. So like if you're a person who likes to garden or who likes to farm, that's definitely another thing that you can look into. In your spare time, you can definitely volunteer and see if you can have access to some fresh, like, vegetables or fruits.
And get some good exercise.
Exactly.
Pick those cherries.
Right, yeah.
Eli, you didn't mention Meals on Wheels, right? You familiar with that? It's people.
Yeah,
Yeah, and we should definitely, in this context, be sure to mention that that is available for people of a certain age and a certain income level, to make sure that they have fresh cooked food. And I'm sure you're familiar with Meals on Wheels, yeah?
oh yeah, yeah, definitely. That's another great resource. And also, like if for those who are for those who you have like CalFresh benefits, if you don't know yet, if you go to the farmers market, you can actually get a discount on your produce if you show them your EBT card, your CalFresh card. You would get a big, big discount. So that's something that you can keep in mind for, whenever you want to go to the farmers market. But yeah, Meals on Wheels, they do such an amazing service. I'm actually thinking of volunteering with them like within the next week or so. But there's a lot of great resources out there that aren't talked about enough. So I'm definitely glad you brought that up.
Great. So when, after we're done with our webinar, we've almost completed the hour, please look for the next edition of our newsletter, which will have this recording and have this information written out for folks and all these resources we talked about. It's just so much about resources and some guidance and help along the way. And I'm really looking forward to looking at your recipes, Eli. How to cook squash. Have you had butternut squash lately, anybody? It will knock your socks off.
Favorite. That's my favorite butternut squash.
I love
Yeah.
zucchini.
Okay.
Zucchini's mine.
Yeah. Yeah. This was great. Thank you.
Definitely. Thank you. Thank you all. And, if you have questions for me, if you want to go into more detail about certain things that I talked about, feel free to email me or contact me through the link. Yeah, it was a pleasure to meet all of you, and like I said, make sure to reach out if you need help.
Thank you, Eli.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
Eli.